Welcome to Nick Barker, who, we're in lockdown in Melbourne at the moment, but there will be some live gigs coming up soon. Actually, a few things for
Yeah,
you, Nick. Valley
we hope.
Sounds is a pretty interesting one. I'm looking forward to that because what a great lineup. You're out there with,
Is that your neck of the woods, is it?
oh, yeah, that's James Reyne and Mark Seymour, Ash Grunwald, and Tracy McNeil going out on that one.
That's a good one. Yeah, I haven't done many of those kind of festivals, but every time I look at anything, it just seems to me that there's kind of like there's this real passion for that era. You know, I mean, I guess Ash and Tracy are kind of not the same as Mark and myself and James, but it just every time I looked at a festival, it seems to be kind of, you know, there's obviously a demographic of, I guess, our demographic, or you know, that have got a real kind of passion and keenness to get out and see live music again. You know, because there's a theme running through a lot of those kind of winery type and outdoor festivals, right? You know, so I guess everyone's gone off and had their kids, and you know, now they want to go back out and start seeing bands again. So it's good. I mean, it's good. There's a big thing. I remember speaking to the Doobie Brothers, believe it or not. You know, we did some shows with them, and I asked them, I said, "What do you guys do now? You make new records?" And they said, "No, they just go round and round and round and round touring, doing that type of show." You know, because in the States, it's big business. I guess you could call it nostalgia. You call it what you want, you know, but there's a real market for that kind of, you know, I guess 40 to 60-year-old kind of ticket sale. You know, it's interesting.
Well, Nick Barker and the Reptiles was a real rock band. This is going to be acoustic. So how do
Mm.
you bring everything back?
Oh, I've been doing that for years, Paul. I mean, you know, we remember the old, you know, Triple M Unplugged and that kind of stuff. That unplugged inverted commas thing was huge when Reptiles were around. You know, and they were forever kind of wheeling us out into kind of, you know, to try and curry favour with any radio stations, as you yourself would remember. Me and Chris probably trundled into when you were at Wollongong and did an acoustic performance. I mean, that was always a big part of our thing. I guess, you know, when you got a harmonica player in your band, you know, you're doing a lot of that bluesy kind of, you're always available to, oh yeah, you know, Nick and Chris will come in and do a song sort of thing. So I've always done it. And it was always, you know, because you never made any money out of touring. So it was always a really good way for me to kind of turn a buck back in the day. So like doing acoustics kind of nothing really for me. You know, it's just been kind of part of the landscape. You've always had to have an unplugged game.
The pandemic kind of sidelined James Reyne with the 40th anniversary of the Boys Light Up. I think by the time he gets back on the road, it's going to be the 40th anniversary of the second Australian Crawl album, Sirocco. And
Yeah.
next
Yeah,
year marks the 40th anniversary of the first Hunters and Collectors album, but 1989 was when your first Nick Barker and the Reptiles album came out. So you've
yeah, right.
recently had a 30th anniversary. Was that marked
Was
in
it
any way?
30th?
30th anniversary of we did a 30th anniversary of the release of Another Me, which was 1988. So whenever that was, we did 3 years ago. We did an anniversary show at the Yarra Valley RSL, which was unreal. There was a lot of it was great. Like, you know, I was kind of like, I'm always like, I don't know whether I should do it, and then let's just do it, you know. And it turned out so good. Like it just it became such a good night. And you know, like, I kind of forgot what a good bar band Reptiles was, you know. So we sort of but bands are funny, right? Because, you know, you sort of do these bands, you're in these bands when you're a kid, and then you sort of, you know, you go through all this stuff and you say, I'm never going to do that again. And, you know, the band split up and blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of, when you get older, you know, you just change and you get more nostalgic, and you just, you know, you miss your mates, you know, and you miss your old mates, and you miss your friends that you shared those times with. And, you know, the Reptiles were you know, we left a lot of blood out there on the road, Paul. You know, I mean, we did a lot of shows, and you know, we had a lot of fun, and we you know, it was when you're in your early 20s, it's a pivotal time of your life, right? So it was really nice to get together, and you know, that's kind of why we decided during lockdown, we all kind of were sort of messaging each other and, how you going? Because Chris lived in Adelaide, he was teasing us about our lockdown and blah, blah, blah. So we just decided, let's we got offered one of these, we were just talking about, we got offered one of these winery shows up in the Yarra Valley, and it was like, well, there's some decent money there. So we thought, let's do some pub shows, because that's where we're at our best. We were never really much chop outside of a dirty pub. I don't reckon. That's where we're at our best.
How many of the original lineup of the Going to Pieces album of the Reptiles are still around to put their hand up and say, I'll do it?
It's all of it, bar Drew, who Drew left after Going to Pieces. So he was the original bass player, but he lives in the UK now, so he hasn't been around for a while. But so we've got a ring-in bass player, my mate Tony, but it's the rest of the band, the drums, Chris, me and Adrian still there. So probably got a collective set of teeth between a lot of us, but the band's, it's funny because we're obviously a blues-based band, but the good thing about playing that kind of music is you just slow it down a bit, and it just grinds a bit more. It's less frenetic. It still works as a rock and roll band. The set's just a little longer than it was. We don't play everything quite as fast and as drunkenly as we did before, but the songs still stack up, and people love them. I forget. You forget that Reptiles sold, probably not a lot of records for the time, but still in excess of 50,000 albums. So there's 50,000 people out there who probably went out and bought those records, and probably, I like to think, treasure them. You got a stack of vinyl behind your head there. As I said to you before, all our records came out on vinyl, CD, and cassette. So there's a fair bit of stuff floating around out there. So I forget that we were a successful band. You do forget. In the annals of time, you think, I wish I could have done this, could have done that differently. But for what we did, we were a successful band. So, and there's still a lot of love out there for it, which is nice for me, because you do, in your 50s, you do change the way you look back on stuff, You go from in your 40s saying, I never want to do that again, to in your 50s going, it's nice to reconnect with those people who you shared a part of your life with, And it's not like we've been out there doing it every year. We don't do it very often. So we like to keep it kind of special.
Yeah, 50,000 sales today would be probably the biggest selling album in the country for the year.
Oh, it'd be on the top of the charts for weeks,
Yeah. Did you ever recoup?
Oh, God, no. I still get statements of income from, it's probably Warner's now, I think, own the Mushroom catalogue, saying, this is to let you know that you still owe us $9 trillion, Yeah, I mean, it's not money that they're going to come around and make me wash their car for, but it's interesting, isn't it? And those masters are probably, I don't know, they're probably in a scrap heap somewhere. It's a strange thing, and now that everything's sort of back catalogues are up on digital now, I'm not sure how a lot of that works, but no, we never recouped is the short answer. Just like every other single band who signed a contract in the 80s, unless it was, someone phenomenal, you did have to sell a lot of records to recoup, because, they were throwing a lot of money to make those records, so.
50,000 albums. What was an album worth? Probably about $15 back then, maybe more.
I think you made less than $1 yourself off that, and you probably, out of that dollar, you used to have to go to the 250 grand you spent on an American producer, and it was incredible. The amount of money that was spent making those records was, and it wasn't just us. I mean, our records, because we made our records, a second record we made in the States, and they virtually said, look, you really got to go to America to make this record, because that's where it's at. We weren't complaining about that, but it's pretty easy to rack up. I mean, and that was when the Australian dollar was worth about 50 cents. So, But we were by no means, like our record. I've heard some horror stories about $1 million budgets for records that sold 10,000. So it was the times, and I guess in a lot of ways it's good to get a trip OS out of it, right?
One of the other fun things you've got coming up is the Traveling Wilburys show.
Yeah, I've done a few of those shows now. You want to talk about popular? It all started with Man in Black. When Tex Perkins did Man in Black, it's like a narrated concert format, and it's become really popular. I did one called Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, which was the story of Bon Scott, and that was like people loved it. So you basically you kind of trying to there's a bit of dialogue where you're telling the important points of you're telling the story of the band, and it's got like you're playing the music as well, so you're not impersonating any one member. It's like more of a telling the story about the band. But you forget how, the Traveling Wilburys, those records sold a lot of records, man. And, people love it. And there's a lot of, like, that theatre format. I mean, Australia's littered with really high-value production community theatres, not just in the city, but every kind of rural setting has a kind of theatre, and a really good one, like in Frankston, Geelong, all these places. And so they kind of have these, and they have these sort of dedicated mailing lists for the community. And so you go and play these places, and there's like 700-800 people at these shows. Like, it's crazy, and they love that format. So they get the music that they know, and they get like kind of facts and all this kind of stuff. So it's a really good way to do it. It's not like a cover band, you know what I mean? It's like a bit more than that. So, and it's not a theatre show, so somewhere in between.
Yeah, there was Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison. Whose songs do you concentrate on? Well,
you forgot the most important member was Tom Petty.
I'm Tom Petty. I beg your pardon. Yes.
Who obviously, I mean, strangely, I was never a real huge Dylan fan. I didn't dislike Bob Dylan. It just wasn't how I came at. I was more a Neil Young guy. So I've sort of been connecting with Bob Dylan through that Wilburys thing, but I was always a Tom Petty fan. So he's the kind of one. I always put my hand up for his songs in this show. So it's like no, I'll take that. Plus, it sort of suits the way I sing too. So. But yeah, it's fun. It's good fun.
Well, we've got a few opportunities to see you live soon. What about new music? You're going to be popping out some new music as well?
About 3/4 of the way through a solo album, which I've done over the last kind of 8 months, which has been really good, actually. It's just, it's nice to take your time with something, Paul. If lockdown's taught me something, is that you don't really need to hurry. You kind of just do your thing. So it's sort of, I've made it leisurely, and so I guess it's funny. You think I've got to hurry up and get this record out, and there really isn't that much of a hurry. You think there is, but I guess the last 12 months has made everyone slow down a little bit, and it's benefited me. So I'll put that out next year, but mainly just sort of kind of easing back into it. Have probably done one live show in the last 12 months, which is, that's ridiculous for me. Since I was 17, I've done gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs every year. So it's kind of makes you reset a little bit, right?
Yep.
But, I'm looking forward to this Corner Hotel on the 30th of October and, the Bridge Hotel on the 16th of October in Sydney. So just a couple of dirty pub gigs and do those, and I don't know, I guess everything will hopefully get back to normal.
Well, thanks, Nick.
No worries, Paul. Thanks, mate. Good talking to you.